Trent Bridge cricket ground here in Nottingham. It is a ground that is steeped in history. The first official game was played back in 1840. It was an inter-county game, but it's also an English tradition. Test matches here, a Nottingham tradition for their first class games. It's also a place where many New Zealanders have had some wonderful success. Wonderful ground, and what better place to start than the Hadlee waiting area. Sir Richard Hadlee absolutely loved his time here at Nottingham, not only for Notts, and we'll get onto that because this is all about his New Zealand career as well, 1971 to 1990. Just take a look at the Player of the Year honours, 79, 83, 84, 86, 87, member of the British Empire for services to cricket. His stats, 86 test matches, 431 test match wickets, 342 first class. I mean, the numbers are phenomenal for Sir Richard Hadlee. I think his love of England, it started here in Nottingham and at Trent Bridge in particular. We come around to some of these stats. I mean, there's talk about how they left the middle of the surface green, bright green for Sir Richard and for Clive Rice and players like that, and they left one end of the pitch quite brown for their spinners. I'm not sure whether that was the case or not, and some of the stories, some of the old time stories certainly tell you that. But you look at these numbers. I pulled some numbers out just at this ground. 375 wickets only at Trent Bridge at an average of 13, which is just phenomenal. But then you go through the 148 matches, 622 wickets, that best bowling of 8 for 41 against Lancashire at Trent Bridge back in 85, and an overall average of 14.51. That is his stats for Nottingham. And then you finish off with one of the, I guess, a quote that sort of summed up his time here in Nottingham. Playing for Notts between 78 and 87, the greatest cricketing experience of his career. Now those are pretty big words for a man who had a legendary international career. County Championship fine-tuned his game, he grew as a player, honed his skills and made him a better cricketer. It's one thing that Sir Richard was always about, making himself a far better cricketer. He wanted to be the best he could possibly be, and the best, possibly the best the world had ever seen at the time. There was a great, I'd say a fight, but a challenge between Sir Richard, between Sir Ian Botham, Kapil Dev and Imran Khan, as great all-rounders of that era. And I think we were lucky to be able to see, I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to see them. Everyone that came to this ground through that era was fortunate to see Sir Richard Hadlee ply his trade. We love him as a Kiwi. Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club, they love him as a player and possibly one of their best, if not the best ever, overseas pro. We'll move on to another one though. We moved from 1987 to 2005, Nottingham's next championship. So it was a long time between drinks, and it was another Kiwi. Surprise, surprise. Stephen Fleming, my old captain, left-hander, graceful, elegant Stephen Fleming. A lot of that 2005 championship was down to his captaincy. That's according to Graham Swan. He said the way that Stephen had captained New Zealand, he brought that to Nottinghamshire, gave them belief, and gave them a championship. He also had a good time of it here in 2004 with a Test match 100 at this very ground.
Well, that's not a bad way to do it. That's smashed away. All the way, it's gone in style. 6 runs, 102 for Stephen Fleming. But he is good to watch when he gets going. Just 161 balls, 12 fours and 2 sixes.
Well, we're about to enter the magnificent library here at Trent Bridge in Nottingham, and I just can't believe the amount of wonderful books, terrific cricketers, all-time legends who have written books or had books written about them and for them. Right through the top, Jim Laker, we've got Dennis Lilly's stuff here, Sir Richard Hadlee, of course, W.G. Grace, a book about Amazing Grace, but it's a good time to talk about an old mate of mine, a guy I played a lot of cricket with, Christopher Cairns. Well, would you believe it? Christopher Cairns first came to Nottingham and Trent Bridge as a teenager, fresh out of New Zealand, and came to play some county cricket for Nottinghamshire. He played here in a span of over 20 years, up until 2008. He had some amazing success at this ground. He played over 90 first-class games, over 90 List A games, averaged just a tick under 40 with the bat. He was brilliant with the ball. He was much loved. In 1995, he was the all-rounder of the year in county cricket. He scored the fastest century of the season in that year as well. And he was just a brilliant cricketer. A guy that I think, and having played with him, I can liken him to, and Ian Botham, a Ben Stokes of the modern era, a Kapil Dev and Imran Khan, guys, Freddie Flintoff, who could change the game with either bat or with ball. He was larger than life in the change room. He always sort of gave you belief that you could win a game from any type of position. You know, the Champions Trophy that New Zealand won, he was a massive part of that, scoring 100. He was a wonderfully talented player, and right up until the end, the very end, in fact, of his Test match career. His last Test was at this ground in 2004. He picked up 5 wickets in the first innings and then continued on his career until 2008 with Nottingham. Absolute legend of this ground, of this championship, of this county, in fact, and much loved.
Bowled him, that's a 5, his last Test match, and he gets 5 wickets.
A massive moment as he doffs his cap. That will mean more to him than anything else. 5 wickets at Trent Bridge in his last Test.
Well, one of the things that's great about the long room here at Nottingham is a visiting nation room. I've dedicated this whole room to New Zealand this time round. We're going to come back to some of these guys here who have played and plied their trade at Notts, but I want to start right down the far end. Tom Lowry, born in Hawke's Bay in 1898, I should say, captained New Zealand on tours of 1927 and 31 to England. He was New Zealand's first captain. There's actually a bat of Tom Lowry sitting above the bar here in the long room. You get a shot of that. It was, I don't know how they hit 4s and 6s in those days, that's for sure. This one dedicated to a lot of the Notts players that have been to New Zealand, plied their trade. Big Luke Fletcher, remember him playing at Wellington for a few seasons. Some great names. Derek Randall down here was probably one of the best fielders of his time, but we're going to talk a bit more about the New Zealanders. And just some of them have spent slightly smaller, shorter times here at Notts. James Franklin, who's plying his trade as a coach now in the county game. Ish Sodhi played some white ball cricket here. Daniel Vittori and Ross Taylor, 2 former New Zealand captains. Spent a little bit of time, 8 first-class matches for Ross Taylor. Daniel Vittori played a couple of first-class matches. Nathan Astle and Ian Butler, who both played here at Notts. But it's all about Andre Adams, this one, because in 2010, that was the next championship that Nottinghamshire won after Stephen Fleming's 2005 side, and Adams was brilliant in that season in particular. In fact, in 10, 11 and 12, he took over 50 wickets at this very ground at an average of 19, 20, 21. So he was superb in that time. Just nipped the ball around nicely, very good medium pace bowling. He was a huge part of that county championship winning side in 2010.
Well, that'll do it. And Nottinghamshire are the 2010 county champions. Unbelievable scenes here at Old Trafford.
Great raft of Kiwis have been here over many, many years. There's some talented players in New Zealand, young age, up to the guys playing here now. I wonder who the next one will be. There's sure to be some more.